A fussy rich woman refused to pay her carpenter because he chose oak as the more durable wood for the shoebox. The carpenter tried his best to tell her that oak is more durable than other woods, but the arrogant rich woman just wouldn't pay. Thinking of the 4 children at home, the carpenter was anxious but could only fight with the rich woman to the end. Unexpectedly, the rich woman did not follow the normal rules and pushed him directly into the sea, but also threw his precious tools into the sea together. Looking at the yacht in the distance, Jack can only be resigned to rage. Not only did not get paid but also almost lost the tools of life. Angry, he vowed that if he met this woman again will make her pay. Friends cannot help but hit him with this kind of yacht all over the world. Rich woman is not easy for them to meet, but as fate would have it, the drunken rich woman wandered on deck that night trying to pick up a ring that had fallen through a crack, not realizing that she too had fallen into the sea. This time she got what she deserved, because none of her crew was indoors and none of them realized she was gone, and watched in despair as the yacht sailed away, losing consciousness in the cold water. The next day, the town's TV station broke the news that a fisherman who had gone out in the early hours of the morning had retrieved a drowned woman, a rich woman named Annie. Doctors saved her life, but she has amnesia and they don't know when she'll regain it. Her butler was watching the local news channel when he realized his boss had disappeared for the night. He didn't dare alert anyone, and after making sure that the boss really did have amnesia, he pretended not to know Annie because she was too much of a pain in the ass to be around with her constant bad temper. Not to mention her arrogance, she punished the entire kitchen for making freshly caught caviar that didn't taste right. And that's just one small example. If it weren't for her mother's generous salary, everyone would have quit. So the housekeeper decided to take advantage of her memory loss to give herself and her staff a vacation. On the other hand, Jack saw the news on TV and his best friend said, "We should go see if we can get your paycheck back." Jack was a little sorry for his meager salary, but just as he turned around, a brilliant idea came to him. He rushed to the hospital and called her his wife. Looking at the sudden appearance of a man, and hastened to stop him from approaching, she was incredulous although she had lost her memory. But in the 2 options of married and unmarried, she felt that she should be unmarried. She concluded that Jack could not get a marriage license, but Jack was up to the task, and when he was working on his shoebox on the yacht, he saw a cartoon tattoo of Annie in a private place because she sometimes wore skimpy clothing. Fearing that the doctor would take advantage of her, Annie hid and pulled down her pants, and when she saw the tattoo, her heart dropped. The system at the country hospital was simple, and although there was no marriage license, Jack took Annie easily. Annie had her own plan. She couldn't pay her medical bills while she was in the hospital, so she decided to follow Jack home and make her own plans. But what she never expected was that his home would be this small, shabby house in front of her, which was not only messy, but also had 4 boys who took turns calling her mom. At this moment, she really felt that the sky had collapsed, but the clothes at home were obviously several sizes too big, so he said she used to be a balloon, like 300 pounds of fat. Jack's tone of voice was so convincing that Annie had to accept that she used to be a balloon. She slumped down on the couch in frustration and tried to rationalize the fact that she was not only fat, but also poor and had 4 sons. But Jack forced her to get up. He told her that the doctor said the best cure for memory loss was to get her old life back. But it's Jack who's in charge of what to do, and Annie is told to clean the cobwebs that have been there for years, remove the 1,000-year-old ice from the fridge, and the dirty, messy clothes of the 4 kids. And then Annie is given all the chores in the house. Jack was content to leave the house and go out drinking with his friends. Annie finally finished her work in the middle of the night and her husband came home. But sleeping was a problem. In her amnesiac mind, Jack was a stranger she'd only known for a day, and even with a husband's title, she couldn't accept the reality of sharing a bed. While she struggled with what to do, Jack said that Annie used to sleep on the couch. Annie thought this was the only blessing in a horrible day, but God didn't think it was punishment enough and the roof started leaking. So she had to put bottles and cans everywhere to catch the rain, and even carry 2 ladles on her person to make it through the night. And then she had to get up early the next day. The next day she had to get up early to prepare breakfast for her husband at work and her children at school. It was a disaster for Anne, with 4 energetic little boys, endless pots and pans, and a never-ending to-do list. All of her time was taken up by these chores. After 2 days, the young lady who never did any housework could not stand it any longer and wondered once again if she had a real relationship with this family, because she had been here for 2 days and still could not remember a thing. So she searched the house and couldn't find a single picture of them together. Jack excuses himself by saying he lost a lot of things when he moved. He lies and kisses Annie while his best friend uses his crappy Photoshop skills to create some intimate photos of him and Annie. The hurriedly produced wedding photos in Jack's cunning tongue finally dispelled Annie's doubts, and she began to resign herself to accepting who she was now. After the initial chaos, there was still a lot to do, but she was getting better at it. With the knowledge she still had in her head, she taught the children new things, opened their eyes to nature, and expanded their imaginations. Looking at her 4 growing boys, and felt a sense of pride and responsibility as a mother, and she felt a sense of belonging to the family. So when the boys were misunderstood and blamed by their teachers at school, she had no choice but to stand up for them. The arrogance in her bones drove the colored glasses of the teachers to retreat. Her dedication to the family was obvious to Jack, and Jack's little vengeful thoughts had long since disappeared, replaced by gratitude and guilt, and some heartfelt feelings he hadn't yet realized. He lied to his wife about going to the tavern every night to have a few drinks with his friends, but in fact, he secretly found a job as a laborer to improve the lives of his family. It was only by accident that Anne found out about this. and she felt sorry for this man's efforts to make a better life for his family. In order to take care of his self-esteem, she pretended not to see anything, but to be more tolerant of him and take care of him on a regular basis. Jack obviously felt that, and to his own tender not a half a star feeling this kind of thing is always mutual. His eyes also began to involuntarily focus on and body. He realized that the no longer arrogant and domineering Annie is so beautiful even without makeup is very fascinated by him. And just as the two of them grew attached to each other, good fortune struck the raggedy little family. Jack was contracted to work on a community project, which made the family financially better off. He not only had more time to spend with his family, but he could actually take Anne to the tavern for a few drinks. The gentle evening breeze off the lake made their hearts beat faster, and he pretended to be unaware of it as he put his arm around Anne's shoulders and she gently stroked his fingertips in return. But in a way, they had already fallen for each other, but it also made Jack's heart struggle with the fact that he couldn't imagine what would happen if Annie found out about his deception or recovered her memories. But he also knew that he shouldn't hide it anymore, but he knew he couldn't hide it any longer. So he decided to go home today and tell her everything. But when he got home, an unexpected visitor showed up in their yard, Annie's housekeeper. It turned out that Annie's mother was coming to visit her daughter, so he had to find Annie to give her back. This familiar person seemed to be a key to Annie's sealed memories. Anna blurted out the housekeeper's name and looked over at Jack in surprise as she excitedly counted the messages that flooded her mind, and jumped into Jack's arms to share the joy of her memory. But then she realized something was wrong. Annie walked sadly into the house. She had decorated it herself, but nothing belonged to her, just as she didn't belong here either. Jack had no courage to stay, and all he could say was a flippant sorry and thank you. The children, however, knew only that their mother was leaving, and they tapped on the window so hard that Annie, distraught, had to cover her ears to keep from getting out of the car. Anne's yacht soon pulled out of the marina and looked back at the quiet town. She admitted that this disillusioned time was not materially rich, but it was spiritually fulfilling and satisfying, and she loved the simplicity and carefree life she was living. With the yacht farther and farther away from her heart is also more and more heavy heart. She cannot let go of that careful care and become cozy home, cannot let go of the mischievous but sweet and lovely children, not to say goodbye to the sad eyes of Jack. So Annie made a solemn decision to order the yacht to return. It was by coincidence that she saw Jack and his children with the help of the marine police coming out to look for her. Excited, they both jumped into the sea just to return to the arms of their loved ones as soon as possible. This is a two-way love. Jack did not covet Anne's millions of dollars to live on his own and did not dislike him for being a single parent with 4 children, because their definitions of happiness are on the same frequency. And it's hard to find a lover in the same frequency. In a sea of people, they will treasure each other very much.